Welcome to Pandora's Awareness Podcast, a place where we collect stories and circulate life-changing wisdom. I'm your host, Asher, and our guest today is Jared. And you're here because we get to celebrate Victory Day. The theme of today is around victory. So, Jared, welcome to the show, and I would love for you to tell us where you're hailing from, what you specialize in, how you adding value to the world, and who you're being a hero to.
Okay, so I'm Jared. I'm from Gatineau, Quebec, Canada. I specialize in I'm a professional running coach that specializes with people in their physical prime that are wanting to complete their first marathon without injury and burnout.
Mm,
And my victory would be that I've done the Boston Marathon, and what I'm working on right now is just getting more exposure. I want to spread my message and support other professionals in this space as well. While growing, we're all in this together. I'm not working on anything specific other than just trying to grow a small business while trying to uh, work full time in the government.
mm.
There's me in a
Canada, Quebec. Okay, well, welcome Canada to the house. All right, all
yeah,
right.
Canada. Here we are.
Yeah. So when did you do the Boston Marathon? When was that?
It was in April.
Oh, this past April.
This past April, yeah, it was my first one.
Oh, take us to the journey of that. How was that like for you?
Oh, it was fun. It was, it was a really rough day because, it's a hard course. It was humid. It was in the ideal race conditions for, like a PB race, but it's a prestigious, iconic race. It's one of the world majors for marathons. There was seven of them, and Boston's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the training for it leading up to it was solid. I was very happy with it. We got very lucky here in Canada. The winter was mild actually. When you get a
Hmm.
lot of snow, it wasn't impacted by, running in the snow and the slush and the ice. It was a very overall mild winter. And so I was very grateful to have very ideal training conditions. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
um, Highest mileage I ever got to was around 130 kilometers per week. So I peaked around that point
Hmm.
of running. It was I mean, because of good time management skills, I didn't find it overly time consuming. I just many, many years of experience. It took me many attempts to even qualify for it because Boston needed to qualify for it. So
Hmm.
the fact that I qualified it was a big accomplishment on its own. And the fact that I had a very flawless training build-up cycle, it was a very successful preparation. I'm very happy with it. The race was rocky, but I learned a lot about myself. I met some wonderful people. I got to travel. So it was a nice little mini vacation. So that's my victory, is to say I did the Boston Marathon while trying to run a business and everything.
Oh, well, congratulations. I haven't done a marathon either, so
Okay.
congratulations to you. And I know you say that you have like a low vision impairment going on with
Yeah.
you. So was that a challenging factor when you was trying to run or trying to
Well, it's
train?
always a it's always a factor, but that's why I have a treadmill right in the
Oh,
background here.
so you do the treadmill. Okay.
I
So
do have a
okay.
treadmill. I
Mm-hmm.
have a treadmill or I run outside, depending if it's nice footing or not. And I pick my battles. So it's kind of about, it affects me, but I just try to flip it around and use all my tools. Um, and I just kind of stick around where I feel safe. It's kind of your a self, just call it self advocate, self accommodating yourself. I
Mm-hmm.
call it
So okay,
making
so
it work.
if you don't mind me going on this journey with you a little bit, because I'm trying to understand if somebody was trying to compete in the marathon or train for a running activity and the vision is a challenge for them, then how do you coach somebody to kind of mentally take that on? Because sometimes somebody might see it as an impairment, but then you
Mhm.
you 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 did it. Like you decide you're
Yeah.
gonna still do this thing. So how would you coach somebody through the mental challenge they might have with going towards something like that?
Well, I have a natural gift of making people feel very good about themselves.
Mm,
So I don't just give them fluffy compliments. I literally say, this is your ability. This is your current state. You can do this based on all my years of experience and knowing what it takes. I would just set them up for success. I create an environment so that if they're feeling discouraged or unmotivated, that they become motivated because of the leverage of my positive affirmation and encouragement. So I'm like the best cheerleader you could ask for, basically. I give them the resources and I give them the encouragement. It's not for me to challenge them or challenge their mental side. I want them to feel good about themselves so they feel motivated to push
Mm,
through even when they don't want to
mm.
or don't
So,
feel good. So it's there's a lot of nuances.
mm. Why is this kind of activity so important to you, like running the
Oh, it's
marathon?
it's because it's so simplistic, it's natural, it's inexpensive.
Mm.
Uh, it's the only sport where you don't need any equipment. Um, I can do it versus cycling, whereas if you're moving across the ground, it's harder
Mhm,
for me to perceive the next move or pothole when
mhm,
if I'm moving too fast cycling, because cycling is standard, you're moving much faster across the ground, like versus a motorcycle, anyways. But
mhm,
running, I'm moving slow enough where I can perceive the next ground and I get the runner's high. That's one of the big things too. It manifests in so many ways. I finish a run and I feel better than I did before, right?
mhm,
So there's a like, okay, I may wake up not wanting to do it, but afterwards, if I keep saying to myself, I'm going to feel better than I did before, that's a win. So just getting out the door, it's cliche, but it's true. You walk out the door and that is the hardest part. But running is actually the easier part of the process. It's just not letting your mind control you.
mm. I want to tap into the mind piece because
Yeah, 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 for
that
sure.
that has to be some of the biggest barriers to doing anything that
Yeah.
you might be physically challenging, and not just like the body itself, but you have the sense perception challenge as well, right? And you're overcoming all of
Yeah.
those things while you're doing your journey. And so I'm trying to go inside of your mind, see how you think about your thinking when you're doing
Yeah,
this
yeah,
this
yeah.
process. So if you can talk us through, so when you on that run and you're running, like what are the things that going through your mind at the time? What are you thinking about?
Sometimes I don't think about much. It's going to be a very
Ah,
easy answer. I just zone out. I think one of the beautiful things that you can do here is you can zone out. You can't do that when driving. You
mm-hmm,
can't do that when you're playing soccer. You can't do that with any other sport
mm,
or maybe cycling, but then you have to worry about cars and traffic. Where running is it's just you and your legs, really,
mm,
and your body. You don't have to worry about flat tires. You don't have to worry about your chain falling off. You don't have to worry about falling over on your bike. You don't have to worry about balance. Some balance is some, but it's not crucial. That's just one element of it. And it's the ability to just zone out and get whatever frustration you have, let it out and sweat it out, right? Sweat is so powerful. Like we're one of the only mammals that can sweat and cool off all at the same time.
mm,
We can breathe and cool off. Other mammals can't do that.
mm,
And I think that's so cool is that we've turned we've treated it like a punishment, right? Kids grow up, they're told, run, jump, and play, and then as soon as we put them in a classroom, tell them to sit down and shut up. And
mm,
then we treat running when we're in gym class or whatever, we treat it like a punishment. Like,
mm,
oh, okay, well, you guys have to do this because you pushed the kid, or you didn't do enough, you didn't put enough effort. Okay, 5 more laps. So they're
mm,
associating it with a punishment. We've turned this beautiful natural sport that we were evolved to do into like like something we have to punish ourselves for because we had pizza the night before or something.
mm,
But it's not. It's something we were meant to do. We were hunting pack animals. So I think that's what's running through my mind is I don't have to do this. I get to do this.
mm,
That's the simple mind shift is that there are people that are in wheelchairs or very disabled, like MS or cerebral palsy at certain
mhm,
spectrums that can't do this at all.
mm.
And it's like they can't get the runner's high because they're not running, right? You don't just walk fast and get the runner's high. It would take forever to do that. You'd have to go on a 6 hour walk. But I mean, I'm not saying it's not good for you. Just saying that running, it's a series of jumps, and it's like the amount of endorphins you produce when you're running
Mm,
is like tremendous. I can't
mm,
even explain it to you.
mm. Well, thank you for sharing that, and definitely congratulations on all of these accomplishments that you have done so far, despite everything that you had to put together to do this. No,
Yeah,
I want to play a little imagination game with you if you don't mind.
yeah.
I would love to. I was thinking about this one concept I'm working on, and it's about like I was thinking about writing some fictional story, and the
Yeah.
story about is like different universe, right? We have different kind of
Okay.
universe where in one universe, um, we have the five sense perception, right? But one of those sense perception is missing, right? They don't have it. So like we're in a universe where nobody can see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So now if we had to live in a universe where no one can see, how do you think we would normally operate? Like how would you think we normally operate in a universe that no one can see? We're missing that sense. Could you imagine
Um,
operating a universe?
in that universe, I think that everything would be touch based, would be more kinesthetic.
Mm,
So we wouldn't have billboards. We would have visual cues for everything.
mm,
So there would be more like walking, there'd be more automation. There'd be forced to be more automation. So crossing the road, there would be cues for everything. There'd be more self-driving cars. We would force a society where we don't have to be always alert for everything. We have to only use our hearing,
mm,
right? Crossroad now, green light, self-driving car coming ahead. Um, Work would be more creative in terms of there'd be more writing involved, right? So painting, that wouldn't exist
mm-hmm,
because it wouldn't mean anything. Unless you can touch it or hear it, it wouldn't mean anything to you. So
mm,
communication would become more important. So we would be in a society where body language is not really that important unless you physically touch someone.
mm-hmm.
Socially appropriate, of course. That is the vision that I see.
I want to go back with you. No, this is very helpful too, by the way, because I'm working on trying to work this project out in my mind too a bit. So definitely, so you said writing, but even though writing would be is something that you have to feel, and you wouldn't be able to, you can't see writing, and you can't see the movies. So all of these things that we're seeing physically, we can. So then, what would be the most important thing in a world like that that we get to use? You're saying I definitely, I love the part about hearing, communication through
Communicating.
speaking. Yeah.
So presenting, coming up with ideas,
Mm,
uh, like typing things out or like presenting would be very important. Just like listening, audiobooks would be a thing. Like you could read books with braille. Like braille
mm,
would be more wide mainstream than what it is now,
mm,
right? Braille is a very niche form of literature because it's just a tool for those that cannot see it to read. It's the only way that a blind person can read.
mm. I'm just
So, we would read by just touching. Like that's the only way we would read. Because otherwise you'd have no choice but to listen to things. So audiobooks would be huge. Public presentations would be massive. You wouldn't even read, there'd be no such thing as PowerPoints anymore. You would literally have everything described to you by the letter. So
mm,
it would almost be auditory overload because of
mm.
the nature of the scenario, right?
Okay, so without the eyesight, hearing becomes a very good thing. Speaking out loud becomes so your
Yeah.
ears become the dominant, really dominant. Hearing
Yes, it
becomes
would have
dominant.
to be. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. But then in a world like that, well, I'm sure we gotta create things in the dark. Hmm.
Yeah.
How would yeah that part gets me now.
No, no, but I know what you're saying, but
Hmm.
it's just that it's a different type of art. Like
Mm.
music would be more known. Like
Music.
like music is a form of art. You don't need to see music. Music is within inside you.
Hmm.
Like there's an actual thing called music therapy. Music therapy would be like mainstream at this point in this universe, in this
Mm.
dimension where you can't see, and music would be paramount to this. Some of the most talented people I know are blind
Mm.
because they just have a different perception of the world. They don't care about drawing. When someone starts talking about painting, I'm like, okay, well, what's abstract painting? They have no concept of that. And I
Mm.
grew up with people like that. I went to a boarding school for people that are blind. So I'm very good at articulating this kind of dimension. So I'm glad we're talking about it.
Hmm.
So I'm like the ideal person to discuss this.
Oh my
Um,
God.
so think of it like don't think of music as painting or a form of artistry. Like bands would be more of a thing, classical music would be more of a thing. Um, Music would be more accessible and cheaper.
Hmm.
to produce. Because
Hmm.
it wouldn't be based on the artist and how the artist looks, it'd be based on the quality of the music.
The sound.
So mu
Yes.
instruments would exist. In fact, I probably guess that someone would invent a different type of way, a different instrument,
Hmm.
because we would perceive our energies would be more focused on what we're hearing than what we're looking at.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know, I that is way beyond me, but like a new instrument, a new way of benefiting from music, another form of artistry, just improv, comedy, any one of those things where you're listening and sitting down to absorb information, that's huge. Libraries wouldn't be as important. I mean, unless you actually read a physical book in Braille, it because Braille takes up a lot of room, right? It's very extensive in terms of space. It takes up a lot of room just to like the volumes required to read a book
Hmm.
of in Braille is a lot. So audiobooks, like I said, audiobooks, writing is a form of artistry when you think about it. So just creative ways to engage in the world where you're not relying on sight. Like
Hmm.
over there, what's over there? Well, I don't know. You have to explain it to me, right? So using vocabulary and language, so language is another form of like the way that we would communicate in a foreign country would be very different
Hmm.
because I think my theory is in a universe where we can't see, language would become that much more important as opposed to visual cues.
Hmm.
Like, I don't care if you're rolling your eyes. Okay, I would verbalize, I'm rolling my eyes at you. I don't care what you think. Or this is interesting. Tell me more. I don't reactions are less important than what's said.
Hmm.
And some people will be dependent on physical affection because physical affection you if it's not based on something you can see or you know go out of your way and look at it, it'd be based on physical affection or something you can touch, something tangible.
Hmm.
Because if it's not tangible, it doesn't mean anything to someone that can't see it.
Then my mind goes to a place where so I know so audio is very important, and then touching would
Yeah.
be another
Yes, it
like a
would be. It would be. It would
it
be.
would be
Yes.
yeah, a lot of touching would be happening, so then people wouldn't like you wouldn't get to offend somebody because touching is the only way to navigate. Then I would think touching
Yeah.
is a means of navigation. So therefore,
Yeah.
people would have to come together. So like, okay, so talk to me about that touching piece. Like, how would you visualize that piece happening?
Okay. So instead of you showing a diagram,
Mm-hmm.
you would illustrate it. So people would be more touchy-feely in this
Mm-hmm.
society, right?
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't like assume based on someone's visual, you know, body language. Like
Mm-hmm.
he looks like you look disturbed. You look scared, right? We would never hear that ever again. It would all be based on, you seem so tense. Your shoulders are all tense. So like you'd walk up to your friend and you would touch them on the shoulder. You go, you seem tense, right? Kinesthetic. You're
Mm-hmm.
physically touching them, right? You have no choice. It's like looking at a cadaver. You can't learn about the human body unless you can physically touch it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same principle, right? Um, if you're trying to explain um you can't like it's like you can't explain a color, so you can't explain like colors wouldn't be a thing anymore. It would
Mm-hmm.
just be what you feel. Like
Mm-hmm.
that feels uh, smooth, that's rough, that's stingy, that's abrasive, that's grainy. You know what I mean? That's slippery, that's sticky. Oh, I could go on. So it's everything is based on what you're feeling, like you're touching,
Mm-hmm.
and then you use that as a way of communicating. Okay, you become better because you're forced to use more vocabulary to like to communicate what you're touching.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was thinking it would it be a lot of description. You have to really, really describe things now. You have to
Yeah, yeah,
really,
you
really
have no
tell people
choice.
what do you feel, what do you think, like you know what I'm saying, like how did it
Yeah,
sound to you? I mean, all those things would be a man, that would be a different kind of a way of
yeah.
describing the
And
experience of reality.
think about it, there'd be less war because
Mm.
you can't shoot someone you can't see. You can't. It's true. I you find it funny, but it's like it's just the way it is. If no one could see, there'd be no, or at least there'd be less war. I wouldn't
Hmm.
say there's never like, but I guarantee there'd be maybe like no wars whatsoever
Mm.
because we would, how would we combat each other?
Mm.
It just blows my mind. I mean, you, this is a very, very profound brainstorming session.
Yeah, it would that universe will base a lot on trust. A lot of trust.
Oh, yes, so much trust.
Mhm.
So because we can see, we take it for granted. So therefore, we
Mhm.
have less trust.
Mm.
So think
Mm.
about that. Yeah.
And it's so This is so profound because we can see. Hmm. So I think so our eyesight really it really put us in a place where it creates a lot of conflict.
It does. It does. Because we
Hmm.
make judgments based on what someone sees. It's like I'm reading your body language and I'm assuming what you're feeling. So instead
Mm.
of asking, I'm assuming what you're feeling just by how you look. Well, for me, I'm at a disadvantage. I have no choice to ask. Like,
Hmm.
everything okay? Like unless someone's crying, like it's kind of obvious when someone's crying, right? You can hear it, you
Hmm.
can somewhat see the tears, but if I'm far away and someone's like 10 feet away from me, I'm not going to know. I'm going to hear it,
Hmm.
right? I can sort of see it. It's kind of very obvious when someone's crying. It's very obvious when someone's excited, like when going animated, right? Those kind of things are a little more obvious. But if someone's giving you a straight face, they're not understandable. So they have to use words.
Hmm.
So if you're in a blind universe, body language, the word doesn't exist.
Hmm.
Body language is what you feel, like you physically touch someone. It's like, well, but when it comes to emotions, you can't see emotions. The only emotions you can see is, on your face. That's the only emotions you can see, right?
I mean,
And
imagine
then
how the feeling of things will be like how hyper would her feeling be? Like I can feel the sensation in the room. I
yeah,
can feel like, or maybe I can smell the
yeah,
atmosphere will be there. Like
smell.
all these senses would have been even more
Well,
potent.
well, you have less. Yeah, they're more potent because you have less of them, right? So you've taken one fifth, or unless you believe in the sixth sense. So if you remove the sixth sense just for easy
Hmm.
math, you take
Hmm.
out one, you take out a fifth of that, you are literally you have a 25% increase
Mm.
potency.
Mm.
So um you go from literally 10 to 12% to 25%, just like that,
Mm.
because you're relying on one less sense, right?
Hmm.
Because one fifth and one fourth are very different. One quarter to one fifth is very different.
Mm.
You have 20% versus 25%. So you gain 5 more% just by having just by having one less uh,
Sense
sense,
perception.
perception, or whatever. Exactly. So how we
Hmm.
perceive the words, we have five senses, and six is like natural instinct, right? Like
Hmm.
instinctual intuition, right? That's our intuition.
Hmm.
So if you don't consider, because intuition is not in, like, you can't measure it, right? You can't measure
Hmm.
intuition. It's very untangible. But the five senses we have in our physical body,
Hmm.
if you remove one, you only have one, one you have one fifth less to worry about. So only have four to manage. And
Mm.
they become more potent as a result of that. So let's say you
Yeah.
start losing your hearing as you get older. That means the other senses become that much more important. So then it's one third. That means it's 33% more powerful.
Mm. This was an excellent imaginary journey just now. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Because I've been thinking about this, right? Because I was trying to figure out if I was going to write like a fictional book around like just create different version of this story itself. Like, so maybe in the next universe I have
Yeah.
there is no hearing, but you can see. Then what I'm saying, we can play with that
Okay.
universe a bit and see what would life be like, how would people communicate in that. And I was trying to go back and forth to figure out. So I'm definitely gonna find people that have thought about this, maybe experience it and kind of see what are their thoughts or what the inside of their mind be like, you know what I mean?
Well, the thing is from all the people that I know that are blind,
Mm-hmm.
the most common response, let's say you were asking the same question. I
Mm-hmm.
guarantee you they would say, well, things would be more accessible.
Mm,
I guarantee that. If you ask a blind person, what would that universe look like that was more or visually friendly at least, it would be can things would be more accessible, less stairs. So stairs would be common. It would be all ramps or
mm.
there'd be more escalators and stuff like that. More
We,
elevators, whatever.
we probably wouldn't even build up. We probably just keep it flat.
Yeah, we'll keep it flat. Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't, everything would be more spread out as opposed to higher, right?
Mm-hmm.
There'd be more signage, there'd be more vocal automation, there'd be more automation tools. Like when you have, they'll use a very simple example. You're on a bus and you have the prompt to tell you what the next stop is.
Mm,
It's the same thing, but more mainstream, wider, like
mm,
more broad scheme. In the broad scheme of things, everything would be sound generated.
mm,
Because if you don't want to fall into a hole or fall off a cliff,
mm,
everything would have to have like a cue to it. Like, oh, you don't want to go over there. This road is closed, right? So there would have to be a guard, or there would have to be a signage, or there would have to be a robot. I mean,
mm,
self-driving cars, like for me, just think about it. We would need so much automation and accommodation in a world where we can't see.
mm.
So I personally, in my opinion, self-driving cars cannot come fast enough.
I agree. I like to sit back in the car and do
Yeah,
something
yeah,
while I'm
yeah, yeah,
driving.
yeah. Like,
Yeah.
okay, for example, like there's so many benefits having a self-driving car that you don't have to worry about at the wheel. You feel intoxicated, you're tired, you had a long day, it's a busy road, you suck at driving, you get distracted. He's like, I can think of 1,000 examples of why self-driving cars is would be such a profound advantage to society.
Mm. You know,
Because,
you know what you made me think about this now, Jared?
well,
I was thinking about a way to get even more creative, but I know I'm thinking about if I start thinking through the absence of some of the senses, that would make would really create a lot of different things in society, because I'm just thinking
yeah.
about it just now. I'm like, oh my God. So if I'm really trying to find a way to get real creative, maybe I could think from the position of not having some of these senses and see what I would actually create that would make society better. And
Yeah.
yes, no. Mm. If I if for some reason everybody go blind for a year on planet Earth, what would happen? Mm. If everybody can't see for a year in planet Earth, what would happen? How would you change things to accommodate the absence of
Well,
sight?
well,
Mm.
politicians or government would have to change radically so fast. I mean, people wouldn't be able to work because we
Mm.
weren't ready for it. There's no prep time, right?
Mm.
So there's too many factors to consider. How much notice did everyone get?
Mm.
How advanced is the economy versus everywhere else in the world where they don't have the same resources? What
Mm.
if their government's corrupt? What if um, everyone else that was already blind, they're already prepared because they're used to it. The
Mm.
depression rates would be skyrocketing
And finding
because it's
food.
like
Mm.
food. Yeah,
I said
well,
finding food, that would be a big challenge.
yes, finding food would be a big challenge. Um, Everyone wouldn't know where to go. We're like,
Mm.
okay, how do I get to the grocery store? When do I turn? Oh, I'm lost. I'm hungry. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
It's
the
too
worst
open.
scenario.
It's too open. It's
Mm.
too open of a question scenario to dive
Mm.
deep into that. Like
No. But
you
yeah,
could
you
go
have my
in
brain
multiple
going.
directions.
Yeah, you got my brain going today. No, totally. No, thank you so much, Jared. Because I was I've been writing some trying to f find a way to create certain characters for this idea,
Yeah.
and then to figure out, because we can start from different places. Like if the world come into existence where everybody was blind, then how would that world even look? But if the world go blind while it in existence, then that's a different kind of scenario too. So I
That's
was
a
like, thinking
completely
about,
different thing. Like what
yeah.
I was discussing earlier was
Hmm.
a dimension or universe in
Hmm.
general where you weren't relying on sight from the inception,
Hmm.
not the sun acute, oh shoot, the sky just fell, we can't see anymore.
Hmm.
Those are significantly two different scenarios.
Hmm.
So it's not comparable. Like it's like apples and oranges.
Yeah, yeah. But you gave me some ideas, and I got to think about
Yeah, yeah,
this.
yeah. Well, I
Give me some
mean,
ideas.
yeah, I'm not sure. Like the scenario for not hearing would be very different as well,
What are your
right?
thoughts on that one? Let me hear you.
Um, I this one I don't have as many possible brainstorming ones on this one because I can't relate because personally I would rather not have sight but hear
Me too.
because communication is harder when you can't hear.
I agree. So, that was one question I was asking myself. If I had to give up hearing or seeing,
Yes, yeah.
which one I give up? I would give up my sight because I love to listen to stuff.
Yes, exactly my point. You
Mhm.
lose music. You
Yes.
lose every form of music when you can't hear it. You can't appreciate it because you can't hear it. You can't, that part of your brain is
Mm-hmm.
not active. It literally shuts down when you can't hear. It's
Yes.
sad. It's devastating.
Yes. Oh
Like think
my
about
God.
that for a second. Like billions of dollars go into the music industry because people feel good when they listen to music. That's literally how people unwind. If they can't listen,
Mm-hmm.
that part of their brain goes dormant and they can't use it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that if we lived in a universe, so like if we were start from ground zero and you
Mm-hmm.
couldn't hear anyway, music wouldn't exist anyways.
No, no.
So it's like the word music, what's that? Obviously if we couldn't hear, then artistry or painting or
Mm,
drawing would be more of a thing because you don't need to listen to it. You like paper doesn't make noise.
mm,
So it's everything that doesn't make noise would be more of a thing. Like it's literally just you're just flipping it on its head. Like it's just you could take everything I said and just flip it upside down.
mm,
It's just because most people, I don't want to assume, but I'd say most, over 50%, would rather lose their sight than their hearing. But
mm-hmm.
it's kind of a pros and cons, right? Because some people literally rely on their eyes to navigate the world. And if they didn't have it, they'd be depressed.
Mm-hmm.
They would be in so much despair. The amount of rehabilitation would be
Mm-hmm.
too much to bear for a long, long time. It'd be like grieving over a loved one, but for yourself. You're like, I don't know how to deal with this. I need help, 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 help. What do I do? I can't see. I can't do A, B, C because it's all in the spirit because it's like hopelessness. I can't do all these things now. What do I do? Right?
Mm-hmm.
No one like it's a very helpless situation to ever go through that.
Mm,
But if you're born with it, it's different
mm,
because you accepted it from a young age. It's just a different scenario, right? Like if you can't hear, you rely more on touch because you're doing, sign language or you're relying on sight. You're doing um, sign language. There's more sign language involved. So
mm-hmm.
you become dependent on your sight. So again, it's flipping it around. Again, my imagination's not there for the hearing because
Mm-hmm.
I don't relate, but
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting to ponder about for sure.
Mm.
What's your thoughts
This
on all that?
this was a good conversation. You got passion in this area, by the way.
Yeah.
So
Oh
much,
yeah.
so much, so much. I love your imagination on this because I can already, because I know you've been thought about some of these things and
Yeah, I have all the time, especially the blind one. Like
mm-hmm,
you could tell that I've been thinking about these things for a long time and I've had like in the front of my
mm-hmm,
mind. I just
mm-hmm,
it's when you have a disability, you think of the world differently, right?
mm,
For example, I don't care as much about sightseeing. So traveling is not always on my bucket list.
mm,
It's not, oh, let's go see that mountain. Hey, Asher, what's that over there? Is that two mountains or one mountain? How
mm-hmm,
tall is that mountain over there? Like, I don't know. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? It's like sightseeing is just not important to me, whereas to you it might be,
mm,
right? So it forces me to have a different perspective on different ways of life.
mm,
It can be very refreshing for others to hear that, like just like they find my perspective very refreshing because it's not common. Most people can see regularly. Most people can drive.
mm-hmm,
Um, and so therefore I have a very vast imagination for these scenarios, especially a blind one, where it's like, because I get it. I completely relate, right?
mm-hmm, mm. So if I'm living in your world right now a little bit, for somebody that's listening and trying to understand how you had to switch up your way of navigating, because now you're saying that I'm assuming like you'll probably love music a lot too, by the way, right?
Oh, I love well, I don't listen to standard lyrical music. I love
Instrument.
soundtracks, classical music, but that's just
Yeah.
me though. So,
No,
anyways.
no, actually, actually, I think me too, in a way, because I love like the cinematic stuff,
Yeah, yeah, I just love it. I'm in love with it. It's just
yeah, that
it makes
different
me feel
vibration.
good. It
Yes. Yes.
makes me
No,
feel good.
totally, totally.
So yeah, so music is very important. Like I wouldn't know what I would do if I couldn't listen to music to unwind or fall asleep. Like let's
Hmm.
say I can't sleep very well. Sometimes my best cure for when I'm tossing and turning in bed is just listen to music,
Hmm.
right? Like, yeah, I don't know. Or listen to a podcast or listen to something that helps me relax. So again, hearing is so important in my world and
Hmm.
others like me.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jared.
You're
We
welcome.
we we went where our love for this to have gone, and you really took my imagination to that place, and I
Oh
appreciate you
yeah, I'm
sharing that.
glad that it was my that's it's my pleasure. You know,
Yeah.
I can easily take people to that world.
Yeah. So if somebody hear you right now and recognize you being a hero to them based on what you just shared us now, and they would love to like work with you, connect with you, how can they do that?
Oh, they can go to my website, www.run number two potential.com. And
Mhm.
then my handle for Instagram is at run to potential, same spelling. And then you could just look me up on Facebook, Jared Broughton.
Okay.
Those are the fastest ways to get in
Mm.
touch
Mm.
if they're inspired. And I'm like your hero. I want to move forward.
Okay, my other question then. So, what is like your biggest takeaway from this conversation today?
Just, I love the brainstorm. I love the concept of it. It's like
Mhm.
thinking outside the box.
Mhm.
Um, I don't get to explain these things very often, so I appreciate that.
Mhm.
I don't get to really tell people these scenarios in which I really understand
Mhm.
what it's like. So basically, I'm giving you an idea of what if everyone was more like me or couldn't see at all, this
Mhm.
is what this world would be like or should be like,
Mhm.
or what it would need to be like in order for it to be functional, quote unquote.
Mhm.
Um, Take it as you will.
Mhm. All right. Last question for you. What is that one thing or two thing when people do it drive you crazy?
What? Sorry, I just can you repeat that again?
Yeah. What is that one thing or two thing when people do it drive you crazy?
Um, Small talk. Um, Small talk. Let's see. People don't say what they mean, and people give up too easily.
Hmm. I believe you. Just by you being a pursuit of marathons and all these
Yeah,
challenging things,
yeah.
yes, you're a person that got a lot of courage and persistence. I can tell.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You should have seen me trying to get girls. If you think that was something, you should have seen me growing up, trying to impress girls and getting a girlfriend. Okay, I gotta stand out. Okay, I gotta be competitive. I gotta stand out. Like, gotta be persistent. I gotta get an answer. Gotta get her attention. I gotta woo her.
Yeah. Oh my God. Wow. Well, it's been a pleasure today, Jared. And if you have any last word for anyone that's listening to you right now, what will your last word for them?
Um, when in doubt, just love.
Mm, okay.
So if you're in a relationship or you're in a marriage, you're in a couple, if you're ever in a fight and you feel like there's no end in sight or that you feel like you've reached an impasse, just say to yourself, when in doubt, just love. If you don't know what to do, just say that to yourself. And it seems to cure everything because love conquers all. So
Thank you so much. I will let that be the last word. And today you're tuning to Pandora's Awareness Podcast, a place where we collect stories and circulate life-changing wisdom. And today's Friday theme was around victory. And you can already tell Jared has been victorious today. So we're celebrating his first marathon accomplishment and then just being able to navigate life with a diminished sight. So put that with you and make